In the U.S. Army Special Forces, there is a training regimen centered around Stoic philosophy. It's a grueling circuit training that combines various fitness exercises. Participants compete with each other to see who can complete more cycles of exercises within a given time frame. These exercises include 21 sets of pull-ups, 21 sets of sit-ups, 21 sets of jumping onto a 24-inch box, 20 sets of bodyweight squats, and a mile run while wearing 20-pound protective gear. Completing this day's training. Instructor Michael says this is not just physical exercise, it's also a character test to be done daily. One could cheat to shave off time, but he knows when he's cutting corners. What he's doing is testing whether someone makes the right choices under extreme physical and emotional stress. He prepares the trainees for unexpected moments, teaching them to practice self-control, like James Stockdale did in the Vietnamese POW camp for 7 years. They practice training on an empty stomach, learning to endure and control themselves when necessary. This also teaches them how to survive in harsh environments. Instructor Michael says, "I like what the Stoic philosopher Musonius Rufus had to say about this issue. He said you should regard food as nourishment to provide strength, with a view to a higher purpose, but if one becomes dependent on it for much pleasure, let it control you. That's dangerous, just like Socrates said eating is for living, but living is not for eating." This is Stoic philosophy, a daily practice and training to overcome any difficulties. Today, we will introduce you to the Stoic philosophy of enduring mental and physical training. Philosophy is not just an intellectual game. People often think philosophy is purely an intellectual game, where one can comfortably sit and think to gain insights. In contrast, for some ancient philosophers, philosophy was a physical and mental exercise, a form of priesthood, also practiced and taught in the gymnasium. The philosophers' robust physique was as renowned as their sharp minds. Plato was a famous wrestler, Stoic cleanness was a boxer, and Socrates was considered the strongest soldier in the Athenian army. Wisdom cannot simply reside at the theoretical level. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus warned his students, saying, "You may treasure wisdom in the classroom, but put it into practice, and you'll find that most people fail." The philosopher who emphasized the idea that philosophy is training for both the mind and body was Musonius Rufus, the teacher of Epictetus. Rufus, known as the Roman Socrates, had some radical ideas for his time. He said slaves have the right to disobey unfair orders from their masters, and proposed that women should learn philosophy just like men. Such radical thoughts angered the imperial authorities, and Rufus was exiled from the Roman Empire twice. But Rufus insisted that philosophy had no value if not practiced and trained. He told his students that virtue is not just theoretical knowledge, but also practice, just like medicine and music, just like doctors and musicians. One must not only grasp the theories, but also practice applying them. If a person only knows the theory but has never practiced resisting temptation, he cannot achieve self-control. Rufus insisted that philosophical training is both mental and physical. He advised Stoic students to undergo training to adapt to cold, heat, thirst, hunger, Spartan meals, endure abstinence, and tolerate hard labor. After experiencing these things, the body becomes stronger, less prone to emotional disturbances, and the mind becomes stronger. The Stoics, much like the Pythagoreans, believed that occasional voluntary fasting was a good way to enhance self-control. Stoics practice to attain inner freedom and resilience in the face of difficulties. How do Stoics know if they are making progress in their training? For example, during workouts, we cannot know if we are truly progressing unless we track how far we can run, how much weight we can lift, how many calories we burn, and what our pulse rate is over time, and how much we improve in these aspects. Ancient Stoics judged their philosophical training in the same way, by tracking their thoughts, emotions, and actions over time to see if they were making real progress. One common practice they employed was journaling. At the end of each day, Stoics undergoing training would briefly write in their journals about their behaviors, how they spent the day, what they did well, and what could have been done better. Seneca was known for this. He said we must examine our souls every day while recording it. If a Stoic student realizes they have issues with controlling their temper, they would continuously observe themselves throughout the day. Then at the end of the day, tally up how many times they lost their temper and write it down in their journal to see if there was any progress over a period of time. Epictetus advised his students, if you wish to rid yourself of a bad temper, calculate the days on which you have not been angry. I used to be caught by irrational emotions every day, now it's every other day, then every 3 days. Journaling is also where we can reflect on the moments of intense negative emotions during the day, then delve deeper to find the reasons behind those emotions, and then we can reason if those reasons are valid. Marcus Aurelius' most famous journal is Meditations. Aurelius was the Roman emperor from AD 161 to 180, and the last of the 5 good emperors according to historians. The 18th century historian Edward Gibbon said the reign of these 5 emperors was the happiest and most prosperous period in human history. In reality, Aurelius' reign was not easy. During his rule, Rome faced a series of disasters, floods, earthquakes, plagues, and constant uprisings along the northern borders of the empire. The last 10 years of Aurelius' life were spent in warfare, battling the Germanic barbarians in grueling winter campaigns. He longed for his family and yearned to be free from the endless wars, but he remained steadfast. He journaled, recording his thoughts, striving to fortify himself against the challenges of life. The Meditations is what he recorded in his journal. Aurelius treated his journal as a gymnasium for the soul, engaging in spiritual exercises. He used writing as a practice of self-discipline. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Walter Miskell of Columbia University conducted a series of famous marshmallow experiments. In this experiment, children were placed in a room with a plate of marshmallows in front of them. They were told they had 2 options. They could either eat 1 marshmallow immediately, but only have 1, or wait for 15 minutes and then have 2. In this experiment, about 1/3 of the children managed to resist the temptation for 15 minutes. 20 years later, Miskell found through tracking the lives of these children that those who resisted the temptation of the marshmallow for longer periods tended to have greater achievements as adults. The longer the children resisted the temptation of the marshmallow, the fewer personal behavior problems they had in school and the better their grades. Since then, self-control has become a focus of psychology. Several studies have shown that for academic achievement, self-control is a more important factor than IQ. Self-control is also a factor in a person's economic stability and job stability. One very important factor in marital stability is self-control. Looking at it this way, self-control is a key character trait for individuals. This research has also begun to be applied in schools, with school stores across the United States starting to sell t-shirts printed with the slogan "Don't eat marshmallows." So, can this kind of self-control really be improved through training, as the Stoics believe? Through research, psychologists increasingly agree with the Stoic philosopher Rufus' view that we can improve our self-control through training. Self-control is one of the 4 cardinal virtues advocated by Stoics, just as many Stoic philosophers believe. Psychologists have found that self-tracking of outcomes is crucial for this type of training. In 1983, psychologist Albert Bandura, an emeritus professor at Stanford University, and his colleague Daniel Seligman conducted an experiment with 90 cyclists to test their performance. They were divided into 4 groups. Some were not given specific goals or informed of the distance they had ridden in a timely manner, while others were given specific goals and were informed of the distance they had ridden. The results showed that the performance of the last group was significantly better than the other 3 groups. Setting specific goals and recording the progress we make towards those goals can motivate us to keep striving. So what are some simple and practical ways to train self-control? That would be journaling, just like the ancient Stoic philosophers did. Roy Baumeister of Florida State University is one of the top experts in self-control psychology. He conducted an experiment where people kept a food diary for several weeks, recording what they ate. The results showed that this simple form of self-tracking could improve their self-control, which then extended to other areas of their lives, such as better financial management. Why does this training work? Baumeister says that the mechanism of self-control is like a muscle that can only be developed through repeated practice. Philosophy makes us our own doctors. Self-tracking has a global movement called quantified self. Its principle is styled after Socratic wisdom, to know oneself through numbers. Participants in the quantified self activity use digital devices to record their daily intake of calories, alcohol, heart rate, blood sugar levels, exercise routines, social life, emotions, and finances. Participants in this activity like to share their training results with others. They find that when they publicly announce how much progress they have made towards their goals, such as weight loss, they are more likely to stick to their exercise routines. Getting support from others. One person who takes extreme measures in implementing self-quantification into his life is Tim Ferriss, who has written books like The 4-Hour Workweek. Tim is a staunch fan of Stoic philosophy, and he calls himself a life hacker, wanting to figure out how to get the maximum improvement from the smallest changes in life. For example, through his own experiments, he found out what changes could help him sleep better, run faster, recover better, and make life more harmonious. He has heart rate monitors, ultrasound machines, and all the medical equipment that measures REM sleep and other indicators. This may sound a bit fanatical, but all this self-tracking allows Ferriss to conduct self-experiments to see what changes really work and measure how much progress he has made towards his goals. Of course, there is an important question: what is your training for? You may want to undergo rigorous training just to make yourself look better, or to become wealthy, to win the admiration of others, or other external goals. But this is very different from the goals of Stoicism. The purpose of Stoic training is to break free from dependence on the external world and to gain inner freedom. You can also use self-tracking for internal character goals, such as getting rid of your bad temper. Journaling allows a person to become more aware of their unconscious bad habits and then change them. For example, writing down 3 things to be grateful for each day. Marcus Aurelius also used this method. He thanked others for what they had done for him. Self-reflection conveniently combines ancient philosophy with modern cognitive therapy techniques. Socrates student Seneca said that Socrates strongly encouraged his companions to study their own bodies throughout their lives, observing what kind of food, drink, or exercise benefited them. He said that anyone who observes themselves in this way would find it difficult to find a doctor who knows better than they do what is good for their health. As the Roman philosopher Cicero said, we train ourselves to be our own doctors. Self-training puts power in our hands, and we can all become experts in improving ourselves. Stoic philosophy and athletics. Stoics often liken philosophy to the Olympics, and training, which the Creator subjects you to hardships, is like a boxing coach giving you a sparring partner to see how much progress you've made in your training, how much you've improved physically, mentally, and spiritually. Historian Darren McMahon once said that now coaches in schools are filling the role previously occupied by philosophers and priests in a strange way. He said that in schools, the only people teaching values seem to be sports coaches. For example, in the movie Coach Carter, he appeared to be coaching a team that was not up to standard but, inspired by the coach, continued to improve and eventually became a star team at the end. Although they lost the championship by 1 point in the final game, at the end, the coach walked into the locker room and made a very stoic speech. He said to the students, "You have achieved something that others have spent their whole lives searching for. What you have achieved is the hardest victory to achieve." This is the view of the Stoics, that sports not only train and cultivate our bodies, but also train our character, train us to endure pain, to overcome the ups and downs of life, and to maintain stable determination in the highs and lows of life, just like Sam Sullivan mentioned last time. At the age of 19, a skiing accident left him with a broken spine, paralyzed in his arms, legs, and body, but he found redemption through Stoic philosophy. When he waved the Olympic flag at the 2006 Olympics as mayor of Vancouver, he remembered a saying by Epictetus, "When difficulties come upon you, remember this, like a wrestling coach, the Creator has found a strong young opponent for you." That's it for this episode. If you found today's sharing helpful, don't forget to share it with your family or friends. See you next time.